Okay, so deep breaths, everyone. Can you believe it's already that time of year again? The time for, well, fresh starts, right? Ambitious goals. You know, that whole New Year's resolution pressure cooker.
It's the season of self-improvement, that's for sure. The annual ritual.
Ugh, tell me about it. I fall into it every single year, like clockwork. You know, this is going to be my year. I'm going to be that girl. Gym 5 days a week, kale smoothies. I'm finally launching that side hustle. But honestly, by February, I'm right back where I started. Resolutions are collecting dust next to that bread maker I swore I'd use.
It's a cycle so many of us know well, that initial burst of enthusiasm, and then poof, the motivation just fades away and we're back to square one.
Okay, but what if this year we did something totally different? Instead of, obsessing over external stuff, we went deeper, like to the
Mm.
core of what actually creates real change, lasting change.
Now that's an interesting thought. What would that look like, though, in a
Yeah.
practical sense?
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going deep on this concept of shalom. It's this incredible idea from the Bible, and it goes way beyond just checking off a to-do list.
I'm all ears. I'm always fascinated by ancient wisdom, and especially how it connects to our lives today.
Our source, beyond resolutions. Cultivating inner peace for a meaningful year breaks it all down. I can't wait to unpack it with you.
Sounds intriguing. Let's dive in.
So shalom, it's more than just like the absence of conflict, right? It's this feeling of wholeness,
Hmm.
completeness, and I guess being aligned with Yahweh's plan. It's like when you finally, clean out that closet that's been driving you nuts. But this is for your soul.
Exactly. Shalom really gets at this state of harmony both inside of ourselves and in our relationship with Yahweh. It's not just a fleeting emotion, it's this deep-rooted peace that impacts everything.
And it's not about like mustering up willpower. We don't have to rely on endless self-help books because, well, John 14:2-7 tells us, Yahshua himself said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." It's a gift. It's already there.
Such a profound truth that Yahshua's peace, it doesn't depend on what's happening around us, or our achievements, or even our feelings. It's just there, unwavering, beyond what we can grasp.
Okay, but in the real world, right, where everything's screaming for attention, bills got to get paid, Instagram's all up in my face with everyone else's highlight reel, how do we actually tap into this piece? Because let's be honest, sometimes shalom feels about as attainable as, becoming a TikTok famous overnight.
I hear you. The world throws a lot at us, that's for sure. Distractions, pressures, so much that pulls us away from any real experience of peace.
So what do we do? What's the secret sauce? Like, how can we cultivate inner peace without, escaping to a silent retreat or becoming a hermit?
Well, our source today, Beyond Resolutions, Cultivating Inner Peace for a Meaningful Year, lays out 4 really practical steps that we can take. And it's not about adding more to our to-do lists, it's about shifting our focus, aligning with Yahweh's plan.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the first step? I need this.
The first thing, and it's huge, especially now, is guarding our hearts and minds. This digital world we live in, it's intense.
Ugh, yes. Between the 24/7 news, social media, opinions flying everywhere, it's like my mind is this overstuffed junk drawer. I'm almost afraid to open it.
That is a perfect way to put it, and it gets right to the heart of the challenge, doesn't it? Protecting our peace is hard when there's so much input. And, Proverbs 4.23 says it best. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
Whoa, okay, that verse. That just hit me hard. It's so true, though. I catch myself scrolling, comparing myself, all that negativity, and bam, my mood is shot. That inner critic starts going wild.
It happens to the best of us. The things we consume, they directly impact our thoughts, our emotions. And that leads straight to our sense of peace or lack of it. If we're constantly taking in anxiety-inducing news, if we're comparing ourselves to, these curated online versions of people, it's no wonder we struggle to find peace.
It's like trying to grow a garden in a landfill. No matter how hard you try, how much you water those seeds of joy and peace, it's a tough battle against all that junk.
Yeah.
So what's the solution? Digital detox cave.
Haha. Well, a digital detox can be amazing, but honestly, it's not always realistic. The key is to be intentional. We have to choose what we allow into our minds and hearts. Maybe that means unfollowing those accounts that trigger you, setting limits on how much news you consume, even being careful about who you spend time with.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like boundaries, right? A spiritual bouncer for our minds. Let the good stuff in. Keep out the noise that drains us.
Exactly. It's about reclaiming your attention, putting it towards what truly nourishes you. Align yourself with Yahweh's truth and filter out all that negativity pulling you away from him.
And this goes back to that idea of being set apart, right? Like Yahweh calls us to be in the world, but not of it. We can engage, but we don't have to be consumed by it all.
You got it. It's about that balance. Engage, but don't lose your spiritual center. Remember who you are in Yahweh and live from that place.
This is blowing my mind already. It's not about being like some robot who avoids anything fun, but being aware. Like I can enjoy a meme, but maybe I don't need to spend 3 hours in the depths of social media comparing myself to, I don't know, random strangers.
Exactly. It's discernment, choices that support your well-being, choices that align with wanting that inner peace.
You know, it makes me think of something I tried last year. I did, get this, a social media fast during the holidays.
Wow, during the holidays. What takes some serious dedication? What made you do that?
It was rough, but I was so overwhelmed. Family stuff, gifts, and then online, everyone's got these perfect holiday posts.
Yeah.
I felt like I was losing myself.
So you stepped away from the digital noise to what? Reconnect with yourself and with the true meaning of the season.
Exactly. And it was amazing. I really enjoyed being with family without that urge to document everything for the Aramis. Like I could finally breathe, reconnect with what mattered.
That's a powerful testament to boundaries, putting your well-being first, especially during those crazy times.
It was a game changer. True peace, joy.
Hmm.
It's not in getting likes or keeping up with everyone else. It's in being aligned with Yahweh, prioritizing what he cares about.
And that leads us perfectly into the second step our source talks about, gratitude.
Okay, gratitude.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, it's always felt a little cheesy to me, like something you see on a poster with kittens hanging from a tree. But I'm open. Convince me.
Oh, I hear you. Gratitude gets a bad rap sometimes. But it's so much more than just, a feel-good emotion or pretending everything's perfect. It's deep. It's spiritual. It can completely change how we see things and how much shalom we experience.
All right, break it down for me. How does gratitude actually lead to peace?
Our source makes this great point. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring the tough stuff or pretending everything's rosy. It's about a shift in focus from what's missing to what we do have, to those blessings we often take for granted.
So, not denial, but intentionally recognizing the good, even when things are messy.
Yes, it's about seeing the world through a lens of abundance, not scarcity. And when we do that, it opens us up to experience Yahweh's presence so much more.
I'm starting to see how this ties back to shalom. When we're fixated on what we don't have, it's all striving, comparing, feeling like we're not enough. But when we're grateful, there's contentment, there's peace right here, right now.
You nailed it. It's recognizing that everything we have, breath, loved ones, our talents, even the hard stuff that helps us grow, their gifts from Yahweh. And when we're grateful, we acknowledge his goodness, and that invites his peace in.
And the Bible is like packed with verses about gratitude, right?
Mhm.
Like 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of Yahweh in Christ Jesus for you.
Absolutely. A grateful heart is something Yahweh's word emphasizes over and over. And the cool thing is, we can practice gratitude anytime, anywhere.
I love that. No special equipment, no fancy skills required.
Mm-hmm.
But how? Like practically, how do we add this into our lives? Most days, I'm just trying to survive the morning commute without spilling coffee on myself.
I hear you. But little things, done consistently, make a difference. Take a few minutes each morning, list 3 things you're grateful for. A gratitude journal. Tell someone you appreciate them. Small steps, big impact.
Wait, so you're telling me my daily list of coffee, sunshine, and my dog actually contributes to shalom? Because honestly, sometimes that is what's keeping me sane.
Each time we're grateful, no matter how small it seems, we're acknowledging Yahweh's goodness. And that opens our hearts to his peace.
This is making me rethink everything. What if, instead of resolutions about changing myself, I start with gratitude? Maybe that's the foundation.
That's a powerful insight. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a catalyst. It shifts us from what's missing to what is there, and in that space, in that contentment, there's peace that passes understanding.
And that peace, it takes us deeper in our connection with Yahweh, which I think is our next step, right? Prayer and worship.
You got it. Prayer and worship, they're the pathways to that peace Yahshua promised us. It's not about ritual, it's about intimate conversation with our Creator. It's about expressing our love, our dependence.
I think sometimes we overcomplicate it, don't we? We think we need these eloquent prayers or hours of meditation to really connect with Yahweh.
But you know what? Yahweh wants our hearts more than our fancy words. He wants us just as we are. Joy, sorrow, questions, doubts, all of it.
So not performance, just being real, open.
Perfectly said. A simple prayer on your commute, A quiet moment on a walk, even belting out your favorite worship song in the car, all of that is drawing near to Yahweh, experiencing his peace.
And there's that powerful verse, Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to Yahweh. And the peace of Yahweh, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus.
It's such a comfort, isn't it? We don't have to carry our burdens alone. We bring everything to Yahweh with gratitude, and he, he trades our anxiety for his peace.
Man, I need to hear that, especially now. Heading into 2025, it feels like the world's spinning faster and faster. Politics, climate stuff, bad news. It's easy to get swept up in the chaos.
And those are the exact moments we need to hold on to prayer and worship. They're the lifeline to Yahweh's peace, reminding us we're not alone, he's in control, and he cares deeply.
So how do we actually do this? With our lives already packed, work, family, the never-ending to-do list, where do we find the time and energy?
It starts with making it a priority, even if it's just a few minutes. Set a reminder, find a quiet spot in your home, a worship playlist that speaks to your soul. The point is, be intentional about creating space for Yahweh.
I love that. It's not about adding more, it's about weaving it in. Those small, purposeful choices, inviting Yahweh into the everyday.
That's it. Not separate, isolated events. It's constant awareness of his presence, a continuous conversation.
And the more we practice this, the more we'll experience his peace, no matter what's going on around us.
It's like exercise. The more we use our spiritual muscles, the stronger our connection with Yahweh, and the more easily we access his peace in any situation.
I'm blown away by this. It's not about achieving some, perfect state of bliss. It's about the relationship, that deep, abiding connection with Yahweh that anchors us. And I think that brings us to the final step, living out our faith boldly and authentically.
You got it. Living out our faith, it's not just a result of inner peace, it's part of how we cultivate it.
This one's tough, though, right?
Yeah.
Especially for, millennials and Gen Z. There's so much pressure to fit in, to not be too religious. Be tolerant, be accepting, but don't be too vocal about your faith.
It's a real tension, especially now. Our culture tries to silence faith or push it to the margins, but we're called to be light, and light can't shine if we're hiding it.
Makes me think of Matthew 5:14-16, where Yahshua says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house."
Such a vivid picture, isn't it? We're not meant to blend in. We're meant to stand out, to let our faith shine brightly, to point people to the source of that light, Yahweh.
And that looks different for everyone, right? It's not always about shouting from the rooftops, although there's a time for that. It's about, how we live, our values, our faith, showing Yahshua's love in everything we do, every decision, every interaction, online too.
Exactly. It could be speaking kindly to that coworker who drives you crazy, helping someone who needs it, sharing something about your faith online. Let your actions, your words, even your online presence reflect that light inside you.
I've been really grappling with that lately, especially with social media. It's so easy to get caught up in presenting this perfect image, all smiles, all success. But by hiding my faith, by trying to fit in, I'm actually dimming the light Yahweh gave me.
And when we do that, we not only rob the world of that light, we rob ourselves of the joy and peace that comes with living authentically.
It's like we're trying to wear a costume that doesn't fit. But when we embrace who we are in Yahshua, when we let his light shine through us without shame, that's where the real freedom is. That's where his peace is.
You said it perfectly. True freedom, true peace. They come when our lives line up with Yahweh's truth. It's not about fitting the world's mold. It's about embracing our unique identity as his children and letting that shine.
I love that. So we've got guarding our hearts and minds, practicing gratitude, connecting with Yahweh through prayer and worship, and living out our faith boldly and authentically. This is like a blueprint. It's about a way of being, not just goals to achieve.
It's a beautiful observation. It's not about checking boxes or reaching some Zen state. It's a journey of aligning ourselves with Yahweh's will.
And it's not a journey we have to do alone. Which makes me think of how important community is. Finding those people who get it, who support us, who challenge us, and remind us of the truth when we're tempted to, dim our light or give up.
You read my mind. Community is essential for Shalom. We weren't meant to do this alone. We need each other to encourage, to challenge, to remind each other of Yahweh's truth when we get off track.
Our source talks about that too. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who point you back to Yahweh, who share your values.
It's like that verse in Hebrews, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching.
We need that. Accountability, support, the reminder that we're part of something bigger. It makes me think of those first followers of Yahshua. All the persecution, hardship, but they found strength in each other.
And that's still true today.
Right.
When we come together, when we share our struggles and our wins, pray for each other, remind each other of Yahweh's promises, that's where shalom grows.
Okay, but how do we do community in a world that's so isolating? Between the pandemic, remote work, all the digital distractions, real face-to-face connection feels like a lost art.
You're right, it takes effort. But we can do it. Join a small group, go to church regularly, volunteer, even just grab coffee with a friend for a good heart-to-heart. These things build those connections that nourish our souls.
I love that. Simple steps, right?
Right.
Break out of our bubbles, connect with those who share our faith, those who can support us on this journey of cultivating inner peace.
And remember, community is a two-way street. It's about giving support, too. We all have something to offer, a listening ear, a word of encouragement, helping hand, even just showing up for someone who's struggling.
Okay, this is making me totally rethink 2025. Instead of resolutions that I'll probably ditch, what if I focus on building a community that supports this journey of shalom?
That is a fantastic goal, because real peace, lasting change, it doesn't happen in isolation. We need each other to walk alongside us, lift us up when we fall, remind us of Yahweh's love.
Thinking about everything we've talked about today, it's amazing how it all comes together. It's like a puzzle. Guarding our hearts and minds, gratitude, connecting with Yahweh, living our faith boldly, embracing community. They all build that bigger picture of shalom.
It's like a tapestry woven by Yahweh, and it's constantly evolving as we surrender to Him, let Him work in and through us.
This has been amazing. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools, not just for resolutions, but for life.
And remember, this is just the start. Cultivating shalom, it's a lifelong adventure, full of growth, discoveries, and Yahweh's grace, always unfolding.
Beautifully said. We'd love to hear from you too. What's resonating with you? How are you cultivating shalom? Connect with us on social media. Let's keep talking.
And, while we're on this topic of living out our faith authentically, it's real. Like, sometimes it leads to conflict, especially, when what we believe clashes with the culture around us.
Oh, totally. I've heard it said, if you're not offending anyone, you're probably not standing for anything. But how do you actually navigate that
Yeah.
and still have inner peace? It's like walking a tightrope.
It is a delicate balance, no doubt, but it's possible. Our source reminds us that true peace, it's not about avoiding conflict altogether. It's about, staying rooted in Yahweh's truth, responding with love and grace, even when you're facing opposition, trusting that He's in control.
That's so hard though, right? Especially now, there's so much pressure to conform, to be tolerant of everything, to not make waves. It's like constantly being pulled in different directions.
The pressure is real, especially in this digital age where everybody's got a platform, everybody's got an opinion. But we got to remember, our loyalty is to Yahweh, not to, what's popular or what's trending. Our source emphasizes that when we align our actions with Yahweh's word, there's a purpose, a joy that goes way beyond, stuff for approval.
So it's about that sweet spot, standing strong in your beliefs, but also engaging with the world in a way that's loving and truthful, not compromising, but being that light.
You got it. And remember, we're not called to single-handedly change the world, right? Our job is to be faithful, to shine our light, to trust that Yahweh will use what we do to bring about His purposes.
This brings us back to the heart of it all, shalom. Cultivating that inner peace. It's not about reaching some perfect state where, nothing bothers you. It's about trusting Yahweh no matter what.
That's it. Shalom isn't the absence of storms. It's Yahweh's presence in the storm.
Wow, that's beautiful. So as we're wrapping up, I'm curious, how do you see these 4 steps working together? Guarding our hearts and minds, gratitude, prayer, and worship, and living out our faith. How do they all create shalom?
What's fascinating is they're not isolated things. They're interconnected. They build on each other. They reinforce each other. It's holistic, It transforms you from the inside out.
Like a tapestry. All these threads woven together. Intentionality, gratitude, connection, courage.
Exactly. And the more we weave them in, the stronger that tapestry of shalom becomes, the more vibrant.
Love that. It reminds us that inner peace, it's a process, not a destination. A lifelong journey of aligning ourselves with Yahweh's will.
And it's a journey worth taking, don't you think?
Absolutely. Because the peace that Yahshua gives, you can't find it anywhere else. It's a gift, it's precious, and it's a source of strength, especially when the world feels so crazy.
So true. And as we cultivate this peace within, it spreads, it touches others, makes the world a little brighter, a little more hopeful.
Thinking back to all those New Year's resolutions we talked about,
Yeah.
maybe the best one is just to focus on the peace Yahweh has already planted in us, to nurture it.
Maybe that's the key to a year that's truly meaningful. Not about achievements, but about a deeper shalom, impacting everything.
I love that. To all our listeners, as we head into this new year, let's commit to cultivating inner peace, not as a goal, but as a way of life, a way of being that reflects Yahshua's love.
And remember, you're not alone. We have each other, we have the scriptures, and most importantly, we have Yahweh. He is the Prince of Peace.
Amen to that. Now, before we move on, there's something our source mentions that I think is really relevant, especially for millennials and Gen Z right now.
Oh, I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's about finding our identity and our purpose in Yahweh, not in, what we achieve or what other people think. Especially now with social media, it's easy to get so caught up comparing yourself, chasing likes and followers.
It's a huge challenge. Our culture is obsessed with externals, appearance, success, popularity.
But our source says that when we align our actions with Yahweh's word, we find purpose and joy that goes way beyond all that. It's about recognizing our value. We are his children, created in his image, called to a unique purpose.
It's that shift, isn't it? From what do I have to do to be loved to who am I in Yahweh and how can I live that out authentically?
And that's where the real freedom is, right? When we find our identity and purpose in him, we're not striving for approval anymore. We're not trying to fit into a mold that doesn't belong to us.
Exactly. It's about embracing who you are, your gifts, your talents, using them to serve him, to serve others,
Why-
trusting that he'll use what you do to achieve his purposes.
This has been on my mind lately. I've felt this pressure, to build a huge following online, create viral content, be seen as successful.
I think a lot of us can relate to that. It's the world we live in, so driven by numbers, by algorithms.
But I'm realizing chasing that stuff is empty. It never ends. It just leaves you feeling exhausted and not good enough.
Like drinking salt water. It doesn't quench your thirst. It just makes you thirstier.
Exactly. So I'm trying to shift my focus, remind myself that my worth isn't in likes or followers. It's in the fact that Yahweh loves me, just as I am.
That's a powerful truth. It sets you free from comparing yourself, from feeling like you have to perform.
It's about finding contentment, finding joy in just being who he made you to be, using your gifts, serving him, serving others, trusting his plan.
And when you live from that place, that's when your light truly shines.
That's when we experience the peace that passes understanding, the peace the world can't give and can't take away.
So let's encourage each other to embrace our true identity in Yahshua, to find our purpose in his plan, to live out our faith boldly, authentically, knowing that in him we are fully known, fully loved, and fully equipped to do good.
What a beautiful way to put it. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's always more to explore.
That's the beauty of it, right? Cultivating inner peace, it's an adventure full of growth and discovery.
We want to hear from you too.
Eh.
What are your thoughts? What are your experiences with finding peace in Yahweh? Come connect with us on social media. Share your story.
We can learn so much from each other walking this path together.
And may Yahweh's peace be with you all. It's funny, as we've been talking about all this, I keep noticing how much our source emphasizes community. Like it's not just a nice bonus, it's essential for shalom. We're not meant to do this alone.
It's so true. We weren't made to go through life in isolation. We need each other to encourage each other, challenge each other, and, sometimes we need that gentle nudge back to truth.
Our source specifically talks about being around people who lift you up, who point you back to Yahweh, who share your values. It's like creating this space where shalom can actually flourish.
That's a great way to put it, like a healthy ecosystem. It needs diversity, those connections, for things to really thrive. It's the same with us. We need a supportive community to grow in our faith and experience that fullness of Yahweh's peace.
That makes me think of Hebrews. It says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day approaching."
Couldn't have said it better myself. That verse gets right to the heart of it. Being intentional about connecting with other believers, sharing life, supporting each other through the tough times, celebrating the good times.
It's like those first followers of Yahshua. So much persecution, hardship. But they had each other. They knew they weren't alone.
Their example is so powerful even now. We live in a world that can feel so isolating, so disconnected. We need to prioritize building those real relationships with people who get it, who are walking this walk with us.
So how do we do that in a practical sense? I mean, life gets busy. It's easy to let those connections slip.
Yeah, you're right. It takes being intentional. But there are so many ways. Join a small group. Go to church, volunteer in your community,
Mm.
even just grabbing coffee with a friend, having a real conversation. These things matter.
And it's not just about getting support, right? It's about giving it too.
Yeah.
We all have something to offer, whether it's listening, encouraging, a helping hand, just showing up for someone who's struggling.
Exactly. Community is about giving and receiving, encouraging and being encouraged, challenging and being challenged. It's all woven together. Love, compassion, purpose.
I'm loving this. Heading into the new year, I'm feeling so hopeful about building that kind of community, a shalom-filled community.
That's awesome. And remember, we don't have to be perfect at it. We just have to take those steps day by day. Trust that Yahweh will lead us and connect us with the people he wants us to be with.
You know, thinking back over everything we've talked about, it's amazing how it all fits together, like each piece of the puzzle. Guarding our hearts and minds, gratitude, our connection with Yahweh, living our faith boldly, community, they all build that bigger picture of shalom.
It's a beautiful tapestry woven together by Yahweh, and it keeps going, keeps evolving as we surrender to him, let him work through us.
This whole deep dive has been so transformative. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools, not just for resolutions, but for how I live my life.
And this is just the beginning. Cultivating shalom, it's a lifelong thing, full of growth, discoveries, and Yahweh's grace.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into cultivating inner peace. It's been an amazing conversation.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to all our listeners, we want to hear from you. What resonated with you today? How are you cultivating shalom in your own life? Connect with us on social media. Share your thoughts, your experiences.
May you all experience the fullness of Yahweh's peace in the year to come.
Shalom, friends.